There is a narrative circulating in the XRP community right now that Japan's monetary policy is about to trigger a massive XRP price rally. The argument goes that the Bank of Japan is tightening interest rates, which will unwind the famous yen carry trade, which will flood global markets with capital that eventually finds its way into XRP. Today we are going to give you the honest picture. We are going to walk through the Japan carry trade thesis clearly. We are going to cover the 3 specific reasons an analyst is pushing back on the near-term XRP rally claim. And we are going to tell you what actually matters for XRP price right now versus what is being overhyped. This is XRP verified. Let us get into it. Let us start by explaining what the yen carry trade actually is, because you cannot evaluate this thesis without understanding the mechanism. A carry trade is when investors borrow money in a currency with very low interest rates and use that borrowed money to invest in higher yielding assets elsewhere. For decades, Japan has kept interest rates near zero or even negative, making the yen one of the cheapest currencies in the world to borrow in. Investors borrow yen at near zero cost, convert it to dollars or other currencies, and invest in US stocks, bonds, crypto, or any higher returning asset. The profit is the difference between the near zero borrowing cost and the higher return on the investment. This trade has been operating at enormous scale for years, with estimates of the yen carry trade running into the trillions of dollars globally. The risk of this trade is what happens when Japan raises interest rates. When Japanese rates rise, the cost of borrowing yen goes up. Investors who have been running this trade need to close their positions. They sell their higher-yielding investments, convert back to yen, and repay their borrowings. When this unwind happens at scale, it creates selling pressure across global risk assets, including stocks and crypto. We saw a version of this in August 2024, when a surprise Bank of Japan rate hike triggered a sharp but brief global market sell-off. The XRP community has been watching Japan closely ever since, with some suggesting that a larger unwind could eventually force capital to rotate into XRP as a beneficiary. Now let us address the bullish version of this thesis before we get to the pushback, because there is a real connection between Japan and XRP that is documented and confirmed. Japan is one of the strongest XRP adoption markets in the world. SBI, the Japanese financial giant, has deep integration with Ripple through SBI Ripple Asia. Japanese XRP products are live. SBI Remit just hit 2.5 trillion yen in cumulative international remittances. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party recently submitted a formal proposal for a yen-based stablecoin legal framework with XRP Ledger connections. Japan is not just a spectator in this story. It is one of the most advanced XRP adoption markets globally. And if Bank of Japan rate hikes eventually drive institutional capital out of the yen carry trade and into alternative assets, XRP is a named institutional asset in Japan in a way that it is not in most other countries. The Japan XRP connection is real. The question is whether the carry trade thesis specifically is the right mechanism to bet on for a near-term price move. Now let us go through the 3 reasons an analyst is pushing back on this narrative, because the pushback is worth taking seriously. The first reason is that the Bank of Japan's tightening cycle has been extremely gradual. Japanese interest rates rose from approximately negative 0.1% in 2023 to just 0.75% by the end of 2025. That is a move of less than 1% over 2 years. When a central bank tightens this slowly, institutions and leveraged traders have enormous amounts of time to adjust their positions incrementally. The sudden, violent carry trade unwind that creates a massive capital rotation event is typically triggered by a surprise rate shock, not a slow, predictable grind higher. The Bank of Japan has been telegraphing every move well in advance. There is no shock. There is no forced, sudden unwind. Traders who built carry positions have been methodically reducing them for 2 years already. The second reason is that the conditions for a major yen carry trade stress event are still significantly further away. A meaningful market shock from carry trade unwinding typically requires rates to reach levels where the interest rate differential between Japan and other countries compresses enough to make the trade economically unattractive at scale. That level is estimated to be closer to 1.5%, which is still approximately double the current Bank of Japan rate. Based on the pace of tightening we have seen, reaching that level could be 18 to 24 months away. That does not mean Japan is irrelevant to XRP. It means the carry trade unwind mechanism specifically is not the catalyst that is going to move XRP price in the next few months. The third reason is the most important for serious XRP analysis, and it connects directly to something Brett Mullen, the head of the XRP Ledger Foundation, said publicly just weeks ago: the liquidity limitation. Right now, stablecoins, specifically USDT and USDC, continue to dominate global settlement flows because they offer deeper liquidity and larger trading markets than XRP does in most corridors. This is not a criticism of XRP's technology. It is an honest statement about where the liquidity infrastructure currently sits. Brett Mullen himself identified liquidity as the primary bottleneck holding the XRP ledger back from its next major growth phase. If an institution needs to execute a large cross-border settlement today, in many corridors, stablecoins offer a more liquid and lower slippage path than XRP. XRP's on-demand liquidity system works best when there is deep XRP liquidity on both sides of a corridor. Building that depth across every global corridor takes time and market maker participation. It is being built, but it is not complete yet. And until it is complete, the stablecoin narrative will continue to compete with XRP's bridge asset thesis in real-world deployment decisions. So what does an honest assessment of this thesis tell us? The Japan carry trade narrative is getting ahead of the actual timeline. The Bank of Japan is moving slowly and predictably, not creating the conditions for a sudden violent carry trade unwind that forces mass capital rotation. The 18 to 24-month timeline before rates reach stress levels means this is not a near-term XRP catalyst. And XRP's liquidity depth, while growing significantly, is not yet at the level where it consistently outcompetes stablecoins for settlement flows in every corridor. These are honest limitations that serious XRP investors should understand. Ignoring them does not make them disappear. Acknowledging them is what allows you to evaluate the actual timeline and position accordingly. But here is the complete picture. Because the pushback on the Japan carry trade thesis does not change the confirmed institutional developments that are actually moving the needle right now. Charles Schwab just placed XRP futures inside the platform 16,000 financial advisors use every day. CME Group named Ripple Prime as day one clearing partner for its 24/7 crypto derivatives market. MasterCard wrote RLUSD and the XRP Ledger into its global settlement architecture this week. Grayscale projects 5 to 6% of all XRP in circulation will be absorbed by ETF structures. May ETF inflows hit 131 million XRP, accelerating from 81 million in April. RLUSD on the XRP ledger is up approximately 100% in 30 days. Real-world assets on the XRP ledger are at 4.8 billion and growing. Japan's ruling party is building a yen stablecoin and XRP framework simultaneously. And the Clarity Act is approaching a Senate floor vote this summer, which multiple market observers describe as the catalyst that unlocks institutional capital that is currently sitting on the sidelines. The Japan carry trade thesis may be premature. The institutional infrastructure thesis is confirmed and accelerating. Those are two very different things, and treating them as the same narrative is how investors end up chasing the wrong catalyst. The liquidity challenge that Ari identified, and that Brett Mullen confirmed, is actually the most investable near-term signal in this entire analysis. Why? Because the solution to the XRP liquidity problem is being actively worked on. Ripple is engaging institutional market makers to provide deeper liquidity across key corridors. The XRP Ledger AMM upgrade, which would dramatically improve capital efficiency for trading pairs, is moving through the amendment process. Every new institutional partner that integrates Ripple's infrastructure adds liquidity depth to the network. RLUSD growing at 100% in 30 days adds stable settlement capacity that works alongside XRP. The liquidity problem Brett Mullen named is a solvable problem with identifiable solutions that are being implemented right now. When it is solved, the stablecoin versus XRP settlement competition shifts meaningfully in XRP's favor. That shift does not require a Japan carry trade unwind. It requires time and continued infrastructure development, both of which are in motion. Let me bring all of this together clearly. The Japan carry trade XRP rally thesis is premature for three specific reasons: gradual Bank of Japan tightening, rate shock conditions still 18 to 24 months away, and XRP's current liquidity limitations relative to stablecoins in many corridors. These are legitimate analytical pushbacks that deserve honest acknowledgement rather than dismissal. But the near-term XRP story does not depend on Japan's carry trade. It depends on Schwab, CME, MasterCard, RLUSD growth, ETF absorption, the DTCC July launch, and Clarity Act passage, all of which are confirmed and active right now. Japan's long-term connection to XRP is deep and documented. The short-term carry trade mechanism is the wrong lens. The institutional infrastructure story is the right one. And that story has never been more confirmed than it is right now. Stay informed, stay patient, stay positioned. Subscribe to XRP Verified. I will see you in the next one.